Hello and welcome to Cryptid by State, West Virginia. Finally, we have reached the state that is probably the most well-known location for having a variety of famous cryptids. Most areas are known for their one specific creature, such as New Jersey has the Jersey Devil, Michigan has the Dogman, Ohio the Loveland Frogman, and the list goes on from there. Yet, West Virginia is specifically known for the Flatwoods Monster, the Grafton Monster, and of course, my most favorite cryptid, the Mothman. So while I was excited to talk about this state, I also was a little nervous that the previously mentioned cryptids might be all there is. Well, do not fear, since I have a list in front of me that indicates this state has almost as many cryptids as the recently discussed Scotland. For those keeping track, this marks our 22nd entry into this series. So, please join me where we continue our countrywide cryptid family road trip as we leave our previous location of Wisconsin and head down to the state of West Virginia. West Virginia has a fairly short but interesting history, and I think you'll soon see why. In its very beginning, West Virginia did not exist on its own, as it was considered one large landmass as part of Virginia. English explorer Abraham Wood was first credited for sending out a party consisting of Thomas Batts and Robert Fallam into the area in 1671. Although with the Treaty of Albany in 1722, it was recognized that the Iroquois owned all of what is presently known as West Virginia. Even as such, the Iroquois, Shawnee, and Cherokee tribes had little interest in settling that area outside of using it for hunting grounds. However, as history frequently goes, only 3 years later, settlers started to move into the area. Of course, these intrusions were answered with conflict, and did play a role in many important battles, such as Dunmore's War and the Cherokee-American War. Even though wars did play a role in West Virginia's development, some of the land was actually sold by the local tribes. Following the Revolutionary War, interest began in making portions of Virginia a separate state. Although it was originally proposed to be what many call Westsylvania, which included part of Pennsylvania, due to them stating that the Allegheny Mountains served as a proper barrier line. This obviously never came to pass. Although splitting the state up re-emerged during the Civil War, where West Virginia decided to remove itself from Virginia for political reasons. During this war, Virginia supported the Confederacy, whereas West Virginia was with the Union. On June 20th, 1863, it officially became the 35th state to join the Union. The flag is very interesting, and it has a lot of meanings behind it. It was adopted officially in 1905, and the most prominent feature is the state seal in the center of the flag, which was designed by Joseph H. Disdebar. The blue border represents the Union, and much like other flags, the white symbolizes purity. Surrounding the state seal is a wreath of Rhododendron maximum, or great laurel, which is the state's flower. Above this is a red ribbon with the state's name. Below the seal is a ribbon with the Latin phrase Montani Semper Liberi, which means mountaineers are always free, which also happens to be the state's motto. In the center is an ivy-draped boulder with the date the state was admitted to the Union inscribed on it. On the ground is 2 crossed hunting rifles and a cap of liberty, which stands for their fight for independence. Beside the boulder is a farmer and a miner, which represent agriculture and industry. Each figure is surrounded in their field's important elements. The farmer is standing by an axe, a plow, a corn stalk, and a sheaf of wheat. The miner is by a pickaxe, an anvil, 2 barrels, and a sledgehammer. I recently realized that I've been forgetting to include how each state received its name. Although, being we're on this location, it is fairly obvious how that came to be. So, let's start talking about cryptids. Oddly enough, West Virginia doesn't have a lot of dogman sightings, but to make up for this, it does have some strange dog-like creatures. The first one would be the beings simply known as white things. These are frequently linked to another famous cryptid known as the sheep squatch, but from all details, they are more dog-like and normally walk around on all fours. They are described as being extremely large, having the combined features of a dog and a lion, having red eyes, long claws, and their white fur is shaggy. They can move extremely fast and have an unmistakable high-pitched howl that is said to resemble a screaming sound. Another common name for them is devil dogs, and from all accounts, they have both a spectral form as well as a flesh and blood one. In some stories, unlucky individuals have been attacked by these beings, and even though they can feel the teeth digging into their flesh, when the attack is over, they can't find any damage on their body. Yet, these creatures are known to mutilate animals that they deem prey, and will commonly kill them by ripping out the throats. In an odd twist, it is said that these bodies are found drained of all blood, much like a chupacabra attack. Frequently, these creatures are seen running through the woods or hanging out in cemeteries. Sightings have occurred all over the state, but they were most frequent in Boone, Mingo, Mason, Putnam, and Kanawha counties. Outside of Delbarton, two people were riding their ATVs along the railroad when suddenly a large, dog-like creature that was white ran across the road on all fours, stood up on his back legs, bounded over a 4.5-foot tall pile of railroad ties, and then jumped an additional 10 feet into the woods. In another story, a group of hunters were walking along the trail when suddenly a white, hairy giant dog pounced on top of one of the men. It hit with so much force that the two left the path and rolled down a hill. This man screamed out for help as he felt the creature was tearing into him. The other hunters saw the attack and ran down to help their friend. When they arrived, they found their friend alone, but screaming for help since the creature had torn out his stomach. The odd thing was that their friend was unharmed, but they had all seen him get attacked by a white dog creature. In 1929, a coal miner by the name of Frank Cazole was walking home through the woods of Fairmont when he spotted an extremely large white dog standing on the path before him. The moment the two made eye contact, the creature attacked, and Frank could feel his flesh being torn. He tried to fight back, but he claimed his punches went through the beast as if he were fighting a ghost. Even though he found no damage from the attack, he knew the beast was real since it had to wait to hold him down. Eventually, he was able to break free and find refuge in the woods. These were a few stories, but there are a lot of them out there, all describing the same thing. This is truly an odd and intriguing cryptid. I have to wonder why it can hurt animals, but not people. Also, I wonder why it attacks humans if it knows it can't hurt them. Maybe it doesn't know that. In the 1940s, there were reports from Webster and Randolph County of another odd dog creature known simply as the Blue Devil. Descriptions are scant, but it was said to be a dog-like creature that was larger than a pony and its fur was a blue color. It is said to make a ghostly howl as it stalks around in the nighttime. During this time period, it was blamed for killing many livestock. The first sighting was on December of 1939 by a man named John Clevenger. He claimed that he witnessed the beast attacking and killing his prized hunting dog. A farmer named Ernest Koger stated that for many nights his livestock seemed to be spooked by something in the woods. This was then followed by him noticing many of his sheep and a cow ending up dead. In the town of Diana, a woman reported hearing inhuman screaming sounds in the woods around her property. These reports caused people to take up arms and attempt to hunt down the beast. On one trip, it was cut short when the hunters' dogs got to a certain part of the trail and refused to move further ahead. A man named Elmer Corley claimed to have killed the creature, and when it was examined, they said it wasn't a coyote, but it looked like one. Sightings died down for a while, but eventually, activity would return. Interestingly, a similar event happened in the same area in 1897, where it played out much the same as this story. The creature was supposedly killed, and sightings ceased. It certainly seems like this location may have a hidden population of some type of strange dog-like creature roaming about. Let's move from dogs and look at a really strange bird. This would be the snaggletooth rock. It is said to make its home primarily in Canada, but it migrates to the snaggletooth knob of Owl Mountain in the wintertime. It can grow as large as 6 feet tall and has a wingspan of over 18 feet. It is covered in wide, dark and light colored brown feathers and will actively hunt all types of prey, including humans. Stories of this bird have been around since 1895. A man named Rube Neisser and his son were out hunting near Sugar Creek. The pair reached a clearing in the forest where they saw a doe and her fawn walking. Suddenly, they heard an ear-piercing screeching sound and saw a massive raptor drop down from the sky and attack the deer. Within a second, the bird grabbed the fawn in its talons and flew off towards Owl Mountain. Sadly, the men saw the doe had suffered severe wounds from the attack, and they had no choice but to put it out of its misery. A man named Peter Swadley was hunting on Pine Ridge with his dog. While focusing on some bear tracks they had found, he heard a screeching noise and was immediately knocked to the ground by a large bird. The man fought back as hard as he could, all the while the bird was tearing at his flesh with its talons. At one point, his dog attacked the bird by jumping on its back. Sadly, this only provoked it into turning its attention to the dog, to which it flew off with the animal in its talons. Peter managed to find another hunter who was able to help him. With his encounter, he claimed that the bird was so powerful that in the attack he felt the creature managed to lift him in the air at least 2 times. I want to end this video with 2 very strange cryptids. The first one is frequently linked to aliens, but by all counts, it feels more like a cryptid. It is known simply and humorously as the Vegetable Man. While the name is funny, the encounter itself is rather terrifying, if it is true. On an evening in July in 1968, a man named Jennings Frederick was hunting near Fairmont. As he was starting to walk home, he heard a sound that he claimed was like a high-pitched jabbering. This sound drew his eyes to a strange creature standing before him. It was described as being green in color, having a thin frame that resembled the stalk of a plant. Its arms were extremely long, but no bigger round than that of a quarter, and it had a semi-human type facial features. The head had long ears, its eyes were slanted and completely yellow in color without an iris. Another feature that was noticed was that it had 3 fingers on each hand that were 7 inches long, and the tips ended in what appeared to be a suction cup shape. Out of these cups were a sharp point that appeared to be briars. Suddenly the creature spoke, stating that he shouldn't be afraid, that he comes in peace, and he only required medical help. Before being able to respond, or even agreeing to help the creature, it latched onto Jennings' arm and sunk the briars into his skin. This creature then began to drain the blood from the man, and did so for around 2 minutes. Finally, the Vegetable Man let go of Mr. Frederick's arm and quickly ran up an embankment, where he vanished from sight. Terrified from what had just happened, Jennings ran away as fast as he could. In the aftermath, he knew how strange his encounter was, so fearing ridicule, he refused to tell anyone about it, including his own family. In fact, when questioned about the marks on his arm, he claimed it was from a briar patch. It would take him almost 10 years to finally be comfortable enough to talk about what had happened. The final story is known as the Beast of Beckley. In the city of Beckley, a family who wished to remain anonymous claims that an odd creature resides in the woods around their home. In 2002, the young son of the family was playing in the backyard when he returned crying profusely. When he finally was able to talk, he claimed that he saw a very tall, black creature with yellow eyes and a mouthful of sharp teeth coming at him from the woods. The family didn't think much of it and assumed he must have seen a bear. A few years later, the teenage daughter named Raven and her friend remembered the story and decided it would be fun to walk into the woods and see if they could find this being. As they neared the tree line, the daughter started to get a weird feeling and decided not to go any farther, but the friend continued on. After a few moments, Raven suddenly noticed a massive black form crouched in some nearby bushes. She claimed that the creature had 4 yellow eyes, and they were intently staring at her. She screamed for her friend, who quickly returned to the spot where she was. As luck would have it, the friend would slip in some mud and land almost right in front of the creature. Raven grabbed a tree branch and pointed it at the being in a vain attempt to threaten it. This scheme worked, but the creature let out an ear-piercing roar, which made the girls run away. Fortunately for them, the beast didn't try to follow them, but when they returned to the spot the next day, they found deep claw marks on the surrounding trees. Through the years, the family claimed to have seen the creature many times, and it even seemed to follow them to other locations. In November of 2011, the creature was seen standing near the family's vehicles, and it was said to tower over them. The odd thing is that in all these sightings, no true form could be seen, and its yellow eyes appeared to just be floating in a black mass. I found this story on the National Cryptid Society website, and the person reporting it is hoping someone has an answer as to what it is. While the description is odd, I do have to wonder if it couldn't be a form of Glimmerman. I would be interested in your thoughts though. As always, I couldn't talk about every cryptid that considers this state home, so here is the honorable mention section. This shouldn't come as a shock, but there are quite a few Bigfoot encounters in this location. What is remarkable is that they all have distinct names. Notably, there is the Yahoo, Leaping Devil, Granttown Goon, Apple Devil, Woodland Crooner, and the one of Native American lore known as the Stone Man. And staying within this realm, another popular cryptid would be the previously mentioned Sheep Squatch. Moving into strange territory, there were reports of a large beaver that resided in the Monongahela River. This creature was said to weigh between 150 and 200 pounds, and it had a taste for human flesh. It was called the Fangmalia, and there isn't a lot of information out there about it. Then we have the Native American Nyaguahe, which was a massive naked bear that frequently hunted humans. Apparently its diet of human flesh is what caused it to lose its hair. This state also has a vampiric flying humanoid bat called the Pipisanguizgue that makes its home in the caves of the Cabuilingo State Park. I also saw references to a creature known as a corpse walker, but really couldn't find any information about them. Although I will state that what I did find seemed to liken it to a form of Wendigo. I will include moon-eyed people here for posterity, but many people believe that they were actually a group of people who lived in caves and made their home in the US around the same time the Native Americans did. There are sightings of black panthers in the area as well. I will include the six-legged mountain lion being known as the Wampus Cat here, but it does verge into mythology, as well as it being found in multiple states. As with a lot of states, there are sightings of thunderbirds, but I have to wonder with so many large bird cryptids seen here, if they aren't one and the same. The Snarly Yowl is another interesting dog cryptid, but while its story is interesting, all accounts claim that it is more of a phantom dog. It will appear in front of people and then disappear. Apparently, such sightings are still reported by motorists to this day. So maybe it does exist, but I question if it is a cryptid or simply a ghost. In this location, you can also find an odd, massive horned snake known as an uktena. Finally, a cryptid that I seem to recall telling you about is a two-headed giant turtle known as the Ogawa River Monster. For some reason, I seem to recall including this one in my Pennsylvania video, but I may be mistaken. It still fits though, since it is found in the Monongahela River. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and that I made West Virginia proud. It is so often that we hear the stories about the famous cryptids, but rarely do we get to know about the lesser known ones. This is where I enjoy my role of being able to bring these mysterious creatures to light. I also wanted to take a moment and say that I am sorry for not responding to any comments from my video last week. I fully intend on rectifying this situation shortly. The reason behind this lapse was due to me having an interview on the Night Terrors channel on Saturday. I will include a link to it in the description. I highly suggest you check it out, and I know a few of my viewers actually managed to come across it already. Remember to keep voting for which state you would like to see next in our Cryptid by State series. So far, you've been doing a fantastic job with that. If you haven't yet done so, do please consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Also, it would be greatly appreciated if you would share my videos with someone you know who may enjoy this type of genre. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.